Hello, everyone. How you doing? I am Dr. Alicia with Coaching with Dr. Alicia, and today I am bringing to you Healing Haven Book Club, and we are reading this book. If y'all don't know, y'all need to know. We are reading, where is it? How to Be an Adult in Relationships. Hold on. What's going on? Okay. How to Be Adult in Relationships. We're talking about the 5 Keys to Mindful Loving by David Richo. And if you're just tuning in, you can watch previous shows of the book club by clicking on the links in the show notes. So hello, Tara. How you doing? Welcome, everybody. Come on in and say hello to me. Hello, Michelle. How's it going? We've been meeting for quite some time, and we're on chapter 4. Chapter 4 is high romance. And today we are going to talk about not falling in love, but rising in love. So we'll talk about how we rise in love. It's not good to be falling. We don't want to be falling anywhere. So not good to be falling in love. Hi, Julia. Hi, Nigel. Denise, how you doing? Chicago. Hey, okay. It's kind of late in Chicago, later than normal, but this is the time I'm able to do it, to come here and talk about how to be an adult in relationships. The 5 Keys to Mindful Loving. If you want to know more about that, you can go into the show notes, and the show notes will have all of the 5 Keys to Mindful Loving. And it also gives a quick description of each one of the keys to mindful loving. If you want to know more about it, there's also links to chapter 1, chapter 2, and chapter 3. Today, this is the second part of chapter 4. So we're on chapter 4. Hello, Dr. Vibe. Hi, Natasha, Naomi. Hello, everybody. Yes. So let's see, before we get started, I just want to let everybody know, if you want to know when I'm going to go live, of course, you can always subscribe to the YouTube channel. Several YouTube channels I'm streaming to, but you can subscribe to Boyce and Alicia TV, of course, Fly Nubian Queen TV, but you can also, let me look and see if I can find, you can also text the word love, LOVE, to 87948, and then you'll get a message every time I go live. So I am going to go live next Sunday, even though it's like on the eve of our holiday Thanksgiving, but I will go live then. So hello, and we're going to get right into chapter 4, the second part of chapter 4, which is we're going to be talking about how to rise in love, not fall in love. We ain't falling in love. We're rising in love. So if you want to get started, let's jump right in. Page 114. Page 114 starts where we're talking about rising in love. So here's what he's saying that romance is one of the high points of a human life. So, hey, romance is beautiful. It's a high point of human life. It is a deeply moving experience of joy, to be cherished and appreciated with gusto. The reason for joy is simple. What makes it so joyful? Hi, Zara. How you doing? What makes it so joyful? It's the 5 A's are flowing in both directions. So that's the beauty of the whole falling in love or rising in love, is that all of the 5 A's. Y'all know the 5 A's? Free will. If you missed the other chapters, you got to go into the show notes and it will tell you all about the 5 A's. So the 5 A's are attention, awareness, acceptance, allowing, appreciating, and affection. So those are the 5 A's that we all need. And all of that's happening during the high romance phase when we are falling in love or rising in love. So it says here. So the 5 A's are flowing. There's nothing getting in the way. The 5 A's are flowing. We are giving and receiving them at the same time and with the same person. This is what makes romance so tender and sweet and so desirable, no matter our age or history. We forget about everything, right? It's funny. Have you ever seen like older adults fall in love? They act like little children, right? have you ever have you ever seen just how people feel when they're in love? They're smiling, their whole disposition changes. This whole falling in love. This is what makes romance so tender and sweet and so desirable, no matter our age or history. So we forget about everything else, and we're always loving to, we have amnesia. We have amnesia about all the other relationships that didn't work. We have amnesia. It's a renewed faith in love, that whole romance phase. The trick, here's the trick. The trick is to enjoy it as Ulysses enjoyed the siren song. So we're getting into Greek mythology. Remember, all of mythology is nothing but a representation of everything that happens in us. So I love about mythology. With full pleasure, yet safely. We want to be thrilled, but not wrecked as we sail into it. This means enjoying romance as a full and uninhibited participant, but also as an amused and sober witness. Yes, y'all know what it's like to be in love. How many people have been in that beginning stages where you meet someone and you vibing with that person and you just have this fall in love feeling? It feels great. That's wonderful. We fall. Notice how we're falling and catch ourselves all at the same time. Okay, so romance is real. Romance phase, all of that is real, but it's temporary. I hate that. Why can't we just be romantic all the time? It's not real. It's temporary. We are in love, but only with a projection of ourselves. Yes. I love that stage too, Sam. Sam, like, I love that falling in love stage. But it's only a projection of ourselves. So the things that there are things about ourselves that we love. There's things about ourselves, a lot of us, that we don't love as much. But really, it's a projection of ourselves. I think that's fascinating because that falling in love stage, what's the normal thing? What do people say when they're falling in love that lets us know it's a projection of ourselves? What is the one thing? Let's see if anybody in the chat can say it. Hey, GMB Heath, do you know what is the one thing people say when they're falling in love? Remember, he's saying that falling in love in this romance is nothing but a projection of ourselves. So what do they say? Hey, Anita, what do you say when you fall, Anita, when you fell in love with your husband? What is the one thing you hear from people? I'll tell you the one thing I hear. We have so much in common. Parish, fellowship. Hey, okay, fellowship, Perry, fellowship, love, love, love. Yes, we have so much in common. That's a phrase that I hear quite a bit. When people are falling in love, people say, oh, we just got so much in common. There's so many things that we have in common. Yes, I can't be without you. Of course, because all you see is what you love about that person. That is so true. Yeah, it is true. We have so much. There's so much we have in common. It's a reflection of yourself. So all you do is see these positive aspects of yourself. But it's not altogether the accurate picture of the other person. So you have to keep that in mind. So because what the author is talking about, it is not yet an I-thou relationship. It's an I-mine relationship. Yes. Wait. Janet is saying, and fall out, we have nothing in common. Well, I don't know. You still have the things in common. You can fall out of love with somebody when you feel like you have nothing in common with them. But that's the same person you fell in love with when you saw that you had so much in common with that person. So that's something to keep in mind when you fall out of love with someone. But what the author is saying here on page 114, The shadow side of the other has not yet appeared at this point. The shadow side of the other has not shown itself yet. We see only the mirror side. The ego has found its ego ideal. As psychiatrist Irvin Yacom says, in romance, you see the reflection of your own beseeching gaze. A mirror can only give us an image, not a reality after all. This is the origin of the expression, love is blind. But love is not blind. It sees and faces all. It is romance that can be blind. When it sees only what it needs to see. It sees only what it needs to see. So what happens to those red flags? Sometimes we ignore the red flags, right? We start seeing aspects. They talked about the shadow side of the other. We don't see the shadow side of the other, right? We only see the positive, the green flags. Thus, we can be in love without really loving, without being committed to giving the 5 A's. So you're giving the 5 A's, but there's not necessarily the commitment, which we can only do with a real person we know fully. You can only really give the 5 A's after this falling in love, because you're not really seeing that person for who and what they are. You're seeing a mirror reflection of positive qualities of yourself. You're not paying attention to the red flags. Why not? Well, first of all, hopefully you would have read chapter 3. So before you fall in love with someone, hopefully you've screened out people who aren't ready to be in a relationship, and you're having a romance with someone that you're actually ready to be in a relationship, and you've picked somebody based on chapter 3. So go back to chapter 3, and let's just assume that you did all the work in chapter 3 to pick a person who's available and who is ready to be in a relationship with you, and they're ready to work on any of their issues in the past, right? So we went through that in chapter 3. But you're falling in love with the mirror of yourself. And I think that's fascinating. One thing I will say about that is that he talks about the shadow. He said the shadow side of the other has not yet appeared at this point. What does he mean by that? I think he means like in relationships, especially romantic relationships, we're just enveloped in a glow of positivity, and we have an idealization of what we want our relationships to be. So at this stage, each partner views the others through this filtered lens. And a lot of it has to do with attraction. You're attracted to that person, but you also look at their appealing qualities. You see their strengths. You admire things about them, right? So you're seeing the positives of that other person. It's commonly known, sometimes I would call it the honeymoon phase. The author here, he's calling it the romantic phase, but I call it the honeymoon. And the honeymoon happens, it's beautiful, right? But shadow aspects, like some of your flaws, some of your insecurities, some of your vulnerabilities, they're not quite evident. So hiding behind this kind of veil is all of these not so positive flaws, right? So the shadow side kind of remains obscure. We don't really know what the negatives are, what the flaws, because no one's perfect, right? Oh, I think I fall in love with the perfect man. Well, okay. you know, they're putting their best foot forward, as they should. So sometimes there just hasn't been enough time. If you think about it, when you're falling in love, sometimes there isn't enough time because that romantic phase happens at the beginning. There's not enough time to see that person's flaws. And another thing is that there's not enough situations. So when you're falling in love and you have this romantic phase, you're just so in love with a person, it's really important during that time you start introducing them to your friends. You start going on vacations with them. You could take them out and observe. So sometimes there hasn't been enough opportunity for some of the flaws to show up. So all you see is the positives. Oh, y'all got it? Okay, so that's why we fall in love with the positives and we don't see the negatives because they haven't been shown yet. There hasn't been enough time to show some of the negatives. Yes, Karen's like, you're meeting the representative. Now, hopefully that person's not deceiving you. I mean, most of us, when we fall in love, outside of like toxic, narcissistic sort of abusive relationships, let's just say this is just a normal falling in love phase. Hopefully the representative is closely tied to who and what they are, right? You don't want to meet a false representative where they're just like manipulating you. Let's just take this out of the equation. But you are meeting their representative, and we would hope to think that the representative is a true reflection of who they are, okay? Given the flaws that will inevitably show up. So flaws are going to show up. It's inevitable. Okay. Love is fun. Who said that? We're agreeing with someone. Love is fun. It should always be fun, right? Sometimes it's not so fun, but I would love to think that it's fun most of the time. So, hey, everybody who's just joining us, say hello in the chat. Oh, I said your name correctly. Yes. I'm glad I did. But we are reading How to Be an Adult. Can you see it? How to Be an Adult in Relationships. It's the 5 Keys to Mindful Loving by David Richo. By the way, I got to talk to David Richo about 2 weeks ago, and you can find, if you go in the show notes, you'll find a link to the author, and you get 70 years of therapy talk. He's been a therapist for 50 years. I've been a therapist for over 20 years. So you get over 70 years of information. And we had a really good discussion about the 5 keys to mindful loving and how important it is and healing it is in relationships. So take a look at that video. And if you want to see some of the old videos that I've done to bring you up to speed, if you're just joining me, you can go to the show notes, and all of the links to all of the book clubs are in the show notes. So you'll be able to see it. You'll be able to follow along. But today we are talking about chapter 4. This is the second installment of chapter 4, and it's all about romance. Okay. So we've been talking about the shadow side. You put your best foot forward. You don't have a chance to see some of their flaws because it hasn't been enough time. It's the honeymoon phase. It's the beginning phase. So you haven't had the time to see that. And so before we start, I want to say hello to Aaron. How you doing? I want to say hello to Jacinia Jackson Graves. Hey, love is blind. Oh my gosh, it is. Love is blind to some of the flaws. Sometimes sometimes you do. I mean, I even think, even in more long-term relationships, you need to pay attention to the positive qualities, even in the long term. When I work with couples, I try to encourage them to just pay attention to some of the positives, because some of the not so fortunate qualities about your partner, there's nothing you can do about it. Just emphasize the positive. So there is merit to the idea of focusing on the positive and not being so deficit and so negative with your partner. So yeah, that also is true. I mean, there's some caveats in there for obvious reasons. You don't want to sweep problems under the rug, but at the same time, you just can't. Rome wasn't built in a day. You can't fix everything. Okay, so let's move along. We're talking about the shadow side. Okay, let's see, where did I end? Oh, okay. None of this represents a fault in us. Okay, the fact that we fall in love this way, this is how humans love. It's not our fault. This is how we're designed. This is how we're made up to have this romantic phase. Projections are established precisely to be transformed. Images are read. Images are road signs to reality. The shadow does not have to come before the light. Most important, in romance, however blind, we are being seen in our full potential for lovableness. Yes. So we get to see ourselves in a way where we're lovable. Romance gives us the chance to be appreciated in all our grandeur. This is a normal and legitimate, as it is in our infancy when so much fuss was made over us. A lover's ideal view of us is not false. That is really who we are. It reflects who we really are, a deep within. If romantic love is healthy, we are mirrored in a way that can enrich our self-esteem. You feel good about yourself. Wow, you're just in a relationship with someone and that person sees all your positive qualities. We all need this sometimes. From time to time, we all need this positive qualities. And to some extent, it kind of makes sense because when we are first starting a relationship, what do? We put our best foot forward. We show great aspects of ourselves. We pay attention during dinner. We're not on our phone all the time like we are like when the romance kind of fades out. You know, it's a different sort of feeling and energy. It's part of the getting to know you process. And I think it's interesting because he brings up the shadow again. He says the shadow does not have to come before the light. Okay, all we see is the light, right? We don't see some of the flaws about a person. So the shadow does not have to come before the light. Most important, in romance, however blind, we are being seen in our full potential for lovableness. I love this because the shadow does not have to appear first, because early days of romance are typically filled with exploration. You want to discover the person. You want to create a space where you can let the person that you're in a relationship with be their best selves, right? And I think it's essential to understand that the absence of the shadow during this romance fall in love phase, it doesn't mean that the shadow isn't there. It doesn't mean that these flaws don't exist. It just means they haven't come to light yet because of the freshness of the relationship. It just hasn't been seen. So, but as the relationship matures and a deeper understanding and a deeper level of intimacy happens, this allows for the shadow aspects to slowly emerge. Some of the insecurities can emerge. Some of the flaws can emerge. And it provides an opportunity, I think this provides an opportunity for growth. It provides an opportunity for you to be adaptable and to you have an enriched connection, a more accurate connection with this person. It's saying, wow, they have all these wonderful qualities, but wow, they also they're not as perfect as I originally thought, right? So it allows you to see the entire person for who and what they are, and then pushing through that. So you have to recognize the qualities, the positive qualities in a person, but also integrate some of these shadow aspects without allowing them to overshadow the light, the positive qualities. And I think that this is really a beautiful way to kind of pay for a genuine partnership, a genuine romantic relationship. So that's what I think about that when it comes to being realistic about love. So what do y'all think? Yes, exploration of time, Maria, exploration of time. Yeah, it takes time. Let me think what you guys said. Oh, in a joyful spirit, enjoy. Don't look for faults. Yeah, just enjoy it for much you can. Have fun with each other. Yes, Ronald is saying love is an evolving force between a man and a woman bonding together. Yes, I agree. Intentional growth. So relationships and falling in love is a beautiful way to grow. Natasha is saying it strengthens communication, right? Yeah, because You ever fall in love, like falling in love, and then you have your first argument and you be like, ooh, we're having our first argument. What are we going to do? It's like exciting. Tell me about it. Like, that's how you feel when it's the first argument. Can you imagine 6 arguments down the line, how you might feel? But it strengthens communication. Thank you, Natasha, for that. So how y'all doing? Welcome everybody. I want to remind all of you all to really do text the word love to 87948, and you'll know whenever I go live, even in the middle of the night, like tonight. Tonight is the middle of the night, and I'm live here talking about David Richo's book, How to Be an Adult in Relationships, The 5 Keys to Mindful Loving by David Richo. If all of us followed everything in this book, it will create a very healthy society. I think we live in a society that is toxic in a lot of different ways. I won't go into that. We live in a world often being led by individuals who know nothing about being an adult. How to be an adult in relationships when it comes to everything, when it comes to business deals, when it comes to interacting with each other, when it comes to parenting, when it comes to all the different ways we interact with each other, all the different ways politically we need to be treating each other, where we can honor and respect each other, but also have boundaries around it. I think that would be very helpful for the world. Pray, travel, eat. Yes, you need this book. Go and get this book. It's in its 20th edition. So the book came out over 20 years ago. So it's still in a second edition. So I think that's great. Rhonda, yes, it's a great read for sure. So if you have the book with us, we are moving on. We are on page 115. Okay, so they say, on the other hand, oh gosh, there has to be another hand. On the other hand, our first romance made us a seductive promise. Our original unmet needs, the 5 A's, can at last be met. This is probably the cruelest illusion of romance, because in that romance stage, you're getting all of your needs met. I can get off scot-free. I do not have to mourn what I missed in the past. I can slip by that stage and find what I lost right here in your arms. Wow. You don't have to deal with the pain because you're in this romantic phase of your relationship. And I think it's interesting is that earlier they talked about the 5 A's given during this romantic phase is similar to what's given to a brand new baby. Can you imagine that? Gosh, a brand new baby. You talk about the 5 A's when a baby comes into life. Parents do a really good job because especially new parents, they want to feel like they can do it, So they like pay attention to the baby at all times. Everything else falls away and you're paying attention to what the baby wants. Oh, the baby's crying. Let's give it what it needs. Oh, the baby's hurt. Let's give it what it needs. Hungry, tired, because you know that this baby is helpless and you're attuned to the child, even though you aren't always in tune, right? You make mistakes, but you're trying really hard to meet the needs of this baby. Honestly, I think that we need to start treating our partners like a little baby. We need to, I really do believe if your loved one came to you and they were upset about something, you drop everything and see what's going on. If they came to you and they were, you could see they were excited about something or happy about something, you stop everything and find out, hey, what's going on? It's like the relationship thrives when there's nobody and nothing more important than that other person. You meet that other person's needs above and beyond anyone else. And especially if you're married, your spouse needs to come first. Not only, your spouse doesn't come only, but your spouse needs to come first, right? Within reason, you really need to give each other the love and attention that you would give a baby. Look at that. Little baby. Okay. So let's move on. There are ways to approach romance. I can meet you in love while we both remain standing, or I can fall with you. I can fall for you. To fall is to get hurt or to be in danger. Yeesh. Oh my gosh. That's when you're being vulnerable, right? To fall is to get hurt or to be in danger. We may say fall into a coma, a fall from grace, and the market falls. To speak of falling in love implies powerlessness, permission to go out of control, to be foolish, to become the slave of emotions, to be carried away as if no longer in possession of one's faculties. Love is a conscious tie, but not bewitching trance. So you don't want to be stupid in love, right? You don't want to be in a trance, but you want to be conscious of the fact that, this is the reality of things, and not to get carried away with something unrealistic. Yet real love doesn't happen by accident. Neither are we its passive victims. It requires a choice in response to an attraction. Granted, we have no control over the attraction of our initial reaction to it, but whether we choose one response after another, and for those choices, we are accountable. So you have a choice in this, to make the choice to be with this person. We always have the power to make them responsibly and consciously. So don't let yourself get swooped up. Don't be in the fall in love phase, be packing up your stuff and moving across the country. Don't be leaving your whole life behind because you're in love, right? You think you're in love. Conscious awareness, yes. Natasha is bringing that up. We always have the power to make them responsibly and consciously. Strong emotions lead to strong transformations if they can be experienced mindfully. This means relating to a feeling rather than being possessed by it. So just paying attention to how you feel. Wow, this person calls me back every time I call them. It's interesting. This is a really good feeling. I think to help you with this, it's always nice to have a friend. It's always nice to have a sounding board or a friend that can say, girl, you better pull it back a little bit. You're going a little overboard. So it's always important to have someone there to help you. Okay. We always have the power to make them responsibly and consciously. This means relating to a feeling. Yes, being mindful of it. Attraction simply happens, but love is a process that requires our participation, a unique way of fulfilling ourselves through giving and receiving at the same time. It is a form of rebirth. Wow, a form of rebirth. You're opening up your heart. Wow. Romance blooms in wish, love in will. In romance, we think, I am contained by you and you by me. We are finding or rediscovering the 5 A's we sought in our primordial relationship. I always wanted to be loved like this. Now that I have found it, I never want to let it go. And I believe I will never have to because of how powerfully I feel it's nourishing between us. It feels so strong, it must be real and will never change. Actually, the heart of the illusion is contained in that last statement. Strong does not mean changeless, only empathetic. Only empathetic. Yeah, I mean, that falling in love stage is definitely interesting. Gosh, it is really interesting. I think and I've seen this in other people, and I think that I have it in my own marriage. Like, there are times where that whole giddiness, that beginning giddiness feeling that I felt toward my husband, I sometimes still feel it. It's really strange. The whole romance thing, the butterflies in my stomach, I still feel it. It's weird. It should have gone away by now, but it hasn't. I still have that sort of giddy feeling. It's been what, 7 years? I don't know. It's been a long time, but it's still there with us, with me, I guess. I can't speak for boys, but it's still there for me. The kind of butterflies in my stomach. I don't know what that means. What does that mean? Zara says your nurturing nature makes you an incredible partner. I don't know. I think so. I know I can be too much. I can be overbearing with my nurturing. So I don't know. Interesting. Okay, so let's move on. Romance is exuberant and a valuable experience. To the extent that we can enjoy it without becoming addicted to it. Romance is the best way to begin a relationship and is a bridge to a more mature commitment. Okay, so romance is a bridge to mature commitment. But we should not be surprised that it does not last. It is a phase that builds a bond, but it is not a mature bond in itself. Nature. Oh my gosh. Nature designed romance to bring people together to mate. So this is nature's way of getting two people together so that they can mate. So the romance is fake. It's just a way for evolution to keep the genetic genes going. Oh, that's tricky. In this phase, the sexual energy is high, and so is the adrenaline. However, contained high adrenaline levels lowers our immune response and eventually undermines our health. So basically, it's unreal. We can't continue in this high romance phase. We won't live long if we continue that, right? The adrenaline is not good to keep going, and it's just not good for our immune system. Thus, in the best interest of our health, our physical health, romance lasts only as long as it's needed for sex and procreation to occur. So it's all about procreating, getting together. I know he can be affectionate and close because he was that from the beginning. This is something a lot of people say. Is a statement that fails to take into account the power of romance to suspend our fears of closeness and occlude our shadow side so that nothing gets in the way of sexual union. So we suspend our fears of closeness. That's what romance does for us. Oh my God. Jeez. Okay. Suspend our fears of closeness and also gets rid of the fact that we don't see some of our flaws. Interesting. Okay. We will be fooled by how things look during the romance phase. We feel betrayed when the glow fades and our partner returns to his original fears, priorities, addictions, and basic instincts. Our partner is not lying, only falling in love and falling out of his usual character. So this is why you need to take time in relationships. Even during the romance phase, you still need to be mindful. You still need to know this is normal and I need to give it some time, because it could be that person's not really acting like their true self. So it could be that as soon as that person falls out of their usual character, they're falling out of their usual character, which is helping them to fall in love with you. So you do have to be mindful of that trick. He will revert back to character after the ball is over. In romance, It also allows that when someone is afraid of closeness, even in the romance phase, they may fear stronger. He has a fear stronger than his instinct. Here we have to be doubly wary. So take it slow. Can I say that? Take it slow. Any relationship that you're in, it's important to take it slow at the beginning. Take it very, very slow. As adolescents, y'all remember teenage love? As adolescents, we were taught that the way to tell we are in love is by our loss of control, our loss of will, and a compelling sense that we could not have done otherwise. This falling in love contradicts the reality of rising in love with conscious choice, sane fondness, intact boundaries, and ruthless clarity. This is something teenagers don't do very well. Y'all remember y'all first teenage love? Yes, puppy love. Teenagers in love, it is great. I used to do a program in the Chicago public high schools. I used to do this program after school about teenage love. Some of the stories I would hear, it would be so unhealthy. Do y'all have teenagers? I think what's unhealthy is when teenagers get into a relationship, why do they think they have to let their significant other, their partner, have their what is that? Their location. Why give another person their location? Like that is unhealthy. Have you heard of that Black lexicon? Have you heard of that? Teenagers. I've talked to teenagers recently, and they'll say because they're in a relationship with someone, I got to give them my location. I'm like, no, you don't need to get, that's unhealthy to give someone your location. Why do they need to track you every second of the day? So there are some teenage relationships. My daughter was in a relationship. She had her boyfriend. She and her boyfriend were tracking each other's location. And I'm like, I don't even track my own children's location. It is unhealthy to track a location. Teenage love is bananas, right? It's bananas. So you have to be cognizant. I spend a lot of time talking about what is healthy in a relationship. I do. Yes, Natasha, I thought that was really controlling, but everybody does it. Everybody. It's like a common thing in the high school. I said, does everyone do this? Yes, everybody does this. Track locations. Crazy. Falling in love. Teenage love. Oh my goodness. We were taught that some enchanted evening, we would feel fascination and head over heels for someone special. But that kind of reaction is actually a signal from the needy child within, telling us what we need to work on, not directing us to our rescuer. Okay, we may strongly believe in the specialness of our exciting relationship. And guess what we say? It's never been this thrilling. I've never had sex like this. We have a lifelong bond. You are like family and we'll never split up. And this is what they say during that stage. And now the popular, we were together in a former life. Oh, it becomes a spiritual thing. That's when you know. These are fantasies that you have about someone you're just being in a relationship, this high romance. We are all the bells and whistles we thought meant. It's true love, so go for it. Actually, sentiments like these are alarms that tell us to be careful and to point to where our work is rather than a shortcut to our work. How much we can misunderstand when fired up by the chance to have all the 5 A's. Parrish is saying better brain, gifted relationships, health of hearts. Okay, Parrish. What is this? Oh, remember what your mama said. Please and thank you. Black lexicon. Considering if the parents were doing that, I'd feel better. Parents were doing what? Let's see. Aaron. I want to trust my woman, not track her. Yes, I just think it's just a little crazy thing teenagers do. But anyway, hey, everybody, it's the top of the hour. Thank you for joining me. I just want to show you the book again, How to Be an Adult in Relationships. It's the 5 keys to mindful loving. Right now, we're talking about mindful falling in love, mindful romance, talking about how to really pay attention to these things. That phone tracking, that ain't right. Oh, you're talking about the phone tracking. That is just not, I don't understand it. But if you're just joining me, that's what we're talking about. Not falling in love, but rising in love. Text the word love. There it is. 87948. You can get text message on when we go live. Tracking is not just a teenage thing. I think it's unhealthy. I've been totally obsessed with 90 Day Fiance. You'd be surprised how they track just unhealthy behaviors. So we need to educate the public about what's healthy and what's not. So anyway, let's see, where are we? We're on page 117, and we just got a few more paragraphs left. So it says, where are we? Okay. So none of this denies the splendor of romance or being in love. So although we need to be aware, allow yourself to be able to enjoy the romantic phase. Being in love is a highly charged spiritual state. It forces us to let go of control, helps us love unconditionally, and gives us the ease of forgiving. Such an atmosphere makes a heaven here on earth, something like the holding environment we know we missed in early life. The sense we get of the otherworldly, of an irresistible force, of time standing still, of something afoot that is not in the ego's control, are all signs of numinous. The words we use to describe romance, like religious words, come from the vocabulary of the supernatural. Phrases like "his face glowed," or "I never saw her look so beautiful." Well, partly is because it's the falling in love phase, and she's going to put her best foot forward, so she's going to make sure she's looking good, right? You're not going to see her necessarily when she's, groggy in the morning or having a bad hair day, right? Speak of a spiritual reality that simultaneously transcends and embraces our sensibilities. Even in the trite expression, together in another's lives, give a clue of our intuition that something powerful and full of grace is happening within us. Romance transports us to a world of soul. So it is no wonder that a partner, they may be called what? What's the word? Soulmate. You call your partner soulmate. Yeah, I do believe in soulmates. I don't know if it's lofty, but I do believe in soulmates. I don't know. I thought it was really interesting. I know I've talked about this before, but my husband and myself, we have the exact same birthmark on the exact same spot on our body. It's crazy. On his little side over here, we have the same birthmark. Like, we're soulmates. I don't know. Maybe we're not, but I like to think that we are. But I like to think that I make sensible decisions. Anyway, okay. We are now at the top of page 118. To feel grief at the end of this phase is appropriate. Reality sets in, right? But we usually fail to address, process, or resolve it. Often when the thrill is gone, and then B.B. King sing that, it turns into blame and disappointment, or even anger. Paradoxically, when partners grieve together, that means they're reminiscing. Remember the good old days when everything you did was right? Remember the good old days? Those days are gone, right? You're grieving that romantic stage because you know realistically it can't continue. They strengthen their bond when they grieve that stage together once it's gone. The first grief they confront together may very well be the ending of romance. The first grief they confront together. Gratitude to one another for support and handling and negotiating the stages leads to growing. This is a growth process. It leads to commitment because, at the beginning, during the romance stage, commitment is low, right? Passion is high. Passion is high, but commitment is low. So once you get into past the romance, the honeymoon stage, start having gratitude for each other's support and handling and negotiating stages leading to growth, commitment, and mutual respect. Letting go of one stage and shifting to another establishes an adult connection to a basic condition of our human existence. The ever-changing and ever-renewing nature of reality. Everything has phases. The biggest risk is to trust that these conditions are all I need to be myself, said the Taoist sage Han Hong. Han Hong. I have to look him up. I've never heard of him before. And I love Tao. I like Taoist thinking. I like fusionism. Fusionist way of thinking, but I like Taoist thinking too. There is actually a phase preceding romance. So he's bringing up a phase that precedes romance. It is investigation, the subject of the previous chapter. So chapter 3 talks about the investigation piece. So you need to do the investigation to make sure that this person is worthy to be fallen in love with, right? This is a time to ask for disclosures of all kinds. Ask about past relationships and what worked, what did not work for them. The wise gold miner wants to see what pans out before he yells, Eureka. Yeah, you don't want to have fool's gold. You want to make sure you're mining the gold, mining things to make sure that it's real gold. It's a real relationship. That person's being honest and open and upfront with you. Because you don't want to yell, Eureka, this is a relationship, and that person's not what they say they are. No one would think of hiring someone for a job without checking references and carefully interviewing the candidate. Hello. Yet we often hire a partner without much inquiry, except from parts of our body that do not always make the wisest assessment. I'll leave that up. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Okay. Or from feelings that say more about our neediness than about another's gifts. So you're basing a relationship on physical, how you physically feel, or the fact that you're needy may not be the wisest choice. Here is a paraphrase of a scene in the 1938 film, The Adventures of Robin Hood. Maid Marian says, "How do you know you are in love?" And Bess is her servant. Bess says, "Your legs are weak as water. You lose your appetite." Then Marian Maid says later to Robin Hood, "Hey, I do love you, but for now, I remain here to be of service to England rather than come with you." So Marian Maiden was saying, yes, I recognize the fact that I love you. I recognize you're so wonderful, Robin Hood. However, I'm going to be sensible. I'm going to stay behind and take care of my responsibilities. I'll see you when you get back. Don't lose yourself in a relationship. I think that's where the author is going. So he goes on to say, Bess describes the romance that disregards everything except sensation. So you can't just focus on sensation. You can't trust a big butt and a smile. Is that what they say? Can't trust sensation. Maid Marian describes the love. Maid Marian describes the love that respects both passionate feeling and sensible priorities. She has not fallen in love and become less conscious of her own life's purpose. So she's got a purpose in life. She's not going to let it all go because she fell in love. She has risen in love and become more conscious of her deepest needs, wishes, and values. Love is our identity, and healthy loving is how we put it into practice. So that's how we rise in love, not fall in love. Falling in love means we're not making sensible choices. Rising in love is where we know we're going to be like Mary Maiden. We're going to say, we love you, Robin Hood, but you carry on your quest, and I have my own quest. We will meet again. I love it. Yes, Rhonda says, amen. Don't be losing yourself to no man. And men do it too sometimes. They do foolish things when they're in love. So this is good. I like high romance. High romance is a phase. I think the biggest takeaway, high romance is a phase that we go through. We see the mirror of ourselves, which is all of our positive qualities we see in another person. That's why you see what you have in common. So it's important to understand that, to be mindful and sensible about it, and don't get carried away into this phase because it feels good, because we're giving the 5 A's and we're receiving the 5 A's, and that feels good. And that's what high romance is about, and you should enjoy it. So anyway, I think I'll be back next week. We'll talk about, what's the topic next week? When romance is addictive. Whew, we're going to talk about addictive love. How about that? So, okay, you guys, this is how to be an adult in relationships. Check the show notes because you can see all of the old videos. You got 1 week. I'll be back next Sunday. You got 1 week to go through all the videos so that you could be caught up to the book. And again, for the last time, I'm going to really encourage you. I think it'll be really helpful. Text love to 87948. And then you'll get a message from whenever I decide to go live. Who knows what the time will be next week. But I got a very busy schedule on Sunday, and I see a lot of clients on Sunday. So I build this in to my regular Sunday routine, and I enjoy it because I love reading. But anyway, I want to thank you all for coming in. Thank you, Ronald. Thank you, Dr. Vibe. Thank you, Black Lexicon, Rhonda, everybody else out there. And if you want to reach out to me, you want to work with me individually or with couples, and you're out of the romance phase and the reality starts hitting in, you need to grieve that romance phase, you can contact me at coachingwithdralicia.com, and I'll be more than happy to work with you. Goodbye, everybody.